everybody, Ryan here, or MandRproductions, with another LEGO Star Wars 20 for 20 episode. I've done a couple of these in the past, and I actually wanted to do more this year than I have done so far, and maybe I'll put out a few more at a more rapid pace throughout the rest of the year, so let me know if you have some suggestions for future LEGO Star Wars 20 for 20 episodes. I've already done the best sets and the worst sets of the last 20 years, year by year, and this video is the most expensive LEGO Star Wars sets of the last 20 years, from 1999 to 2019. This was a pretty easy list to put together. I just went through each year and looked at what was the most expensive set. So, without further ado, if you guys do enjoy, leave a like on the video. At the end of the video, I'll have a question for you as well, and let's get started. The most expensive set in 1999 from the first year ever of LEGO Star Wars was the Mos Espa Pod Race. The set retailed for just $90, and everything else was cheaper, obviously. It was a pretty inexpensive set compared to some of the things we get today, so that was the most expensive set in 1999. A lot of things have changed. It's one of the only smaller, most expensive sets. This is like the one set that just isn't this giant UCS set that's on this list. The year 2000 brought us the Ultimate Collector Series line, and the X-Wing, which kicked off that line, or helped kick off the line with the TIE Interceptor, retailed for $150. This behemoth was upgraded back in 2013, but this one stood the test of time until then. This thing, again, $150. I hated the black and white box art on these. Looks absolutely terrible like that, but honestly probably for the better, because the set itself, outside of black and white, doesn't look much better. 2001 brought us the UCS Tantive 4, and this costs just $200, and honestly for the size that is pretty crazy nowadays by today's standards. Even though I think it's only like 1,748 pieces, it's still pretty cheap for that price per piece in LEGO Star Wars. Again, this is a huge set. It's got so many large pieces. I love this one. I have it myself, but $200 would put it as the most expensive set in 2001, and at the time, the most expensive LEGO Star Wars set of all time. That was quickly eclipsed in 2002 with the UCS Imperial Star Destroyer, which retailed for $300, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that at some point in the lifetime of the UCS Imperial Star Destroyer, and perhaps the Death Star 2 as well, that came out in 2005, which we're going to get to, they dropped the retail price of these from $300 to $270. Something you don't see LEGO do often, but with such long lifespans and maybe declining sales, and they still wanted to sell them, maybe they dropped the price by $30. I'm pretty sure that happened. Anyway, at the time, this was the biggest and the most expensive LEGO Star Wars set to date in 2002. 2003, we saw a step back, although I wouldn't really consider it a step back. They just didn't make another giant, huge, expensive LEGO Star Wars set. It was the UCS Rebel Snowspeeder for just $130. This was pretty relatively cheap, and compared to the UCS Star Destroyer, much smaller. I would say the first modern-looking $200 range UCS set. I think the X-Wing and the TIE Interceptor came out a little bit too early, but I think this Snowspeeder was the first that kind of really set us on this path that we're on today with these yearly $200 UCS sets. Moving on to 2004, we got the UCS Y-Wing Attack Starfighter, one of my favorite LEGO Star Wars sets ever, even though I don't own it. This particular one I just have a lot of fond memories of looking at pictures of. And this one also retailed for $130, so you guys kind of see that trend there from the early to mid 2000s with those smaller UCS sets in the $100 to $150 range. Nothing crazy with this set though. 2005 brought us an even bigger, at least piece count wise, and more expensive LEGO Star Wars set than the UCS Star Destroyer with the UCS Death Star 2. This thing is an absolute monstrosity. I think a lot of people look at this as one of the top 10 LEGO Star Wars sets ever. When you look back, I think this one is definitely beloved by a lot of people, including myself. I was fortunate enough to own one for a short period of time, about a year, and it sat in a box because it was glued together and then was promptly sold for, I think, $10. So that's great. Anyway, moving into 2006, we got the LEGO Star Wars Imperial Star Destroyer playset, as well as the UCS Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. Both of these sets retailed for $100 US, although the Star Destroyer had about 150 more pieces than the Darth Vader's TIE Advanced, although I don't really think that's relevant to what we're talking about here. It's just the price that we're talking about. And both these sets for $100, I think, was pretty fair either way you looked at it. I think both these sets are really awesome sets that a lot of people might have fond memories of, myself included. For both of these sets, I really like both of them. Some of my favorites of all time. Swiftly moving into 2007, we saw what would become one of the most legendary and most expensive LEGO Star Wars sets ever with the UCS Millennium Falcon. With 5,197 pieces, it has stood the test of time as the largest LEGO Star Wars set ever until very recently. This set, when released, retailed for $500, which a lot of people thought at the time it could never be eclipsed. This is the most expensive LEGO set LEGO will ever sell, and there will never be anything more expensive. Oh, how naive we all were, and probably still are. Like, there's always a bigger fish. wish. Isn't that the quote from episode 1? That's probably the most famous quote from episode 1, if there is one. I'm not sure. But yeah, the UCS Millennium Falcon, an absolutely awesome set. I think a lot of people really like this one. It's became very, very expensive on the secondary market post-retirement. This thing was going for thousands and thousands of dollars sealed in box, and it's still pretty expensive. Not quite as expensive since there has been a re-release of this set. If you're kind of out of the loop, we're going to get to that. But this thing's freaking awesome, and I love it, but it is the most expensive set of 2007 and actually held the record for most expensive LEGO set, if you want to call it a record, for about 10 years after that. So 2008 saw another huge LEGO Star Wars set with the UCS Death Star, UCS, kind of Master Builder Series-esque, just large LEGO Death Star playset is what I'm going to call it. But this set costs $400, so we actually took a step back in price from the UCS Millennium Falcon from the year prior, but still a very cool set and one of the most popular LEGO Star Wars sets ever. I think this thing stayed on shelves for about 8 years, which is insane, especially at that price. 2009's biggest set brought us one of the most classic and famous and probably the best Clone Wars set ever, the Republic dropship with AT-OT, which cost $250. It included a Republic dropship and an AT-OT. Shocking. But yes, this was basically the best 2-in-1 you could ever ask for. We got an AT-OT, which could carry all 6 of the clone troopers included, and it also had room for the pilot in the front, and then the dropship also had a pilot in its cockpit area. You had a very nice connection mechanism between the dropship and the AT-OT to allow the dropship to carry the AT-OT, and then it could easily drop the AT-OT by pushing in that little yellow piece there that you can see up under the dropship. It also had a very nice carrying handle. This is one of the first modern sets to include a carrying handle. It was one of the first times, not the first time, but one of the first times that LEGO was like, hey, we should put a handle on this because it would make it easier to carry for kids to play with. And that's exactly it. And even on top of that, just to move the set because it's so big, and especially when you have the AT-OT under it, how can you pick that up? Like, it just doesn't work. So 2009's most expensive set was the Republic dropship with the AT-OT, $250. A $10 price bump in 2010 saw us with the UCS Imperial Shuttle, maybe the best LEGO Star Wars set ever, at $260. Very beautiful, elegant set, one of the best display sets ever in my opinion. No bias at all. 2011 saw the UCS Super Star Destroyer for $400, which is pretty fair, I think. A very huge set for a very huge price tag. 2012 saw the B-Wing for $200, the small-ish B-Wing compared to some of the other UCS sets we had gotten in years prior for very, very high price tags. Just saw a $200 price tag and was nice and quaint enough. 2013 saw the $250 Ewok Village as its most expensive set. It included a ton of Endor-themed minifigures from Episode 6 Return of the Jedi, as well as 4 separate Ewok trees, and was a generally very cool set, highly regarded in the LEGO Star Wars world, I think, as one of the best LEGO Star Wars playsets ever. Absolutely beautiful set from 2013, again, the most expensive set of that year. 2014's most expensive set was the UCS Sandcrawler at $400, included a ton of minifigs, and was and still is one big awesome brown LEGO ship or vehicle. This Sandcrawler is the best Sandcrawler, hands down. It has some of the best building techniques I've ever seen and experienced when building a LEGO set. Absolutely love that set. 2015 has some co-owners once again for the most expensive set. We had the Slave One, released in January of that year. Beautiful set, again regarded as one of the best LEGO Star Wars sets ever, and also the UCS TIE Fighter that came out I believe in May of that year, and both of these sets cost $200. I honestly think the TIE Fighter is a bit underrated though, but again, both sets $200, most expensive sets of 2015. Come 2016, we saw that re-release of the UCS Death Star that had been on shelves for so long to that point. There were a few minor build upgrades to the actual build, as well as the Darth Vader's TIE Fighter getting a complete revamp, and then we also got a whole bunch of minifigure upgrades with this set. And unfortunately with that, we saw a price bump of $100, bringing this to $500 as the most expensive set of 2016. Needless to say, fan reaction, or at least in the LEGO Star Wars community, was not very high, although it is still on shelves 3 years later, so it must not have done terribly and still be doing decently to this day. 2017 saw what was one of the most requested LEGO Star Wars remakes of all time. The UCS Millennium Falcon became super popular post its retirement, like I mentioned. It became very expensive as well, which made a lot of fans really want LEGO to either re-release the original one or remake it in some form or fashion. 2017 brought that to fruition with this awesome LEGO Star Wars UCS Millennium Falcon remake. The set retailed for $800 and is a really really awesomely detailed Millennium Falcon with some interior space for your figures. Very cool exclusive minifigures. Again, $800 leaves it as the most expensive LEGO Star Wars set to date, and we will see at some point in the future if that is eclipsed. I wouldn't be surprised if one day there is a $1,000 LEGO set. Like in the next 10 years, I wouldn't be shocked. Some LEGO Star Wars set is going to do it. It's going to happen, right? But $800 UCS Millennium Falcon from 2017, most expensive set of that year and of all time to this date. 2018 saw the Master Builder Series Cloud City set for $350 as its most expensive set. This classic scene from Star Wars Episode 5, or many scenes, were recreated pretty dang well with some pretty awesome minifigures included in the set. And that leaves us in 2019 with the most expensive set of the year being the UCS Imperial Star Destroyer remake. This set cost $700, making it the second most expensive LEGO Star Wars set ever, and that leaves us very open for the future. What will happen next? Will there be a more expensive LEGO Star Wars set? Let me know down in the comment section below if LEGO does make a LEGO Star Wars set more expensive than the UCS Millennium Falcon, or even maybe the same price as the UCS Millennium Falcon. If LEGO makes another $800 LEGO set, what do you think it would be? What could be so popular and so iconic and so huge with a build that it would warrant an $800 or more price tag? I'm curious what you guys think. My vote is for a UCS AT-AT. I think that is the one that has the highest potential to me to eclipse that price tag. But let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts. Leave a like on the video if you guys enjoyed, and if you have any suggestions for a future 20 for 20 episode, leave in the comment section below as well. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.